Unless they never say recording in regress or recording in some other transcendent. Anyway, so this is a reading from Whispers from Eternity. It's number 161. Demand to be able to conquer fear. Infinite Spirit, teach me to comprehend the utter uselessness of being afraid. Help me to keep in mind that even death, since come it must, at least comes only once and need not be suffered 1,000 times beforehand through fear. When death does come, it will be by nature's mercy. When it comes, I will welcome it in my soul, for I will understand that it is time for me to move on. Lowering the curtain on this life's drama, but traveling perhaps to something new and equally interesting. Let me not be a psychological antique fearing change. Teach me not to paralyze my nerves daily with the dread of some future imaginary accident. Such dread may only invite the accident to happen. Bless me, that I not let fear anesthetize my mind and shut off my unlimited power as thy child to overcome all tests and trials. Help me to realize whether I am awake or asleep, alert or dreaming, thine all-protecting presence encircles me always. Help me to see that neither mighty fortress nor wealth of Croesus could protect me from disease, earthquakes, and all kinds of accidents. Thou alone art my protector, and that though I walk where bullets fly, or where swarms of bacteria abound, I am ever safe and haloed in thy all-sheltering lights. not by rejecting good teaching. There's some benefit in studying the great Jewish scripture, great Christian teachers, and great Hindu teachers. Validate it, see for yourself, see what it is. And it's not easy. It requires courage to grow, especially when we come to this one that we're talking about here today, the divine within, because when you really identify with that divine within, what happens to your small ego? Die the self. That doesn't feel like a very easy transition. You know what I mean? When you're talking about dying to the self, it's not like, oh, gradually, you know, sometimes spiritual life is like this, and you grow, and it's wonderful, and it uplifts us. But dying to the self, that's tough. That's some of the tough stuff about this, and it requires courage. This is not the easy part. But some parts of it are easy, or feel easier. Change to more and more identify, and so that you're kind of just observing this Nirmoha, or observing this whatever you name yourself. It's, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that thought. That, you know, so you're sort of not caught in the thought, not caught in the identity. Oh, look at what Nirmoha's doing today. You know, so I'm speaking in the third. And when I do that, you do that just a little bit. Did you notice you did that? Do that. Just observe yourself. Name yourself in the third person. See how it pulls you just a little bit back. And you can do that far enough. Who am I really? Who am I really? There you are. Identified with the divine. And what happened to Nirmoha? Oh, it's a little jarring. No longer being identified with that. It requires courage. And it requires being a little out of step with our culture. Have you noticed that really deep spiritual practice is actually not supported? Now, everybody's good with you being spiritual or religious or whatever, but really deep practice is not as well supported as you might. It requires what we've got here, community. There's been a bunch of psychological experiments done where you have everybody sort of as confederates, and then the one person is the, I don't know if you want to call him the stooge, but the psychological subject. So here's one that's been done any number of times. So it's a classroom. There's the teacher up in front of the classroom. There's about 10 students in the room. And the task of the students is this. So when the teacher points to the longest line on the board, there's 3 lines of different lengths on the board. When the teacher points to the longest line, raise your hand. Okay, so that's the task. 10 students, the teacher points to the short line, nobody raises their hand. He points to the medium line, that's the long line, everybody raises. So you got the task. Now, here's the setup. The setup is 9 of the 10 students are in on it, and they're told to raise their hands when the medium line is pointed to. Or, as a variation, they're told not to raise their hands when the teacher points to the long line. What happens in that room? So the teacher points to the long line. The one student who's not in on it goes. About 75% of the time. Isn't that interesting? Or if they point to the medium line, everybody else goes like that and he's looking around. There's a huge pressure that's built into us. We are social creatures. There's a huge pressure to conform to the group you're with. So what's the injunction out of this? Pick the group carefully. Yeah. If you spend time with people who don't get it, after a while you won't get it. Isn't that interesting? So it doesn't mean you should always avoid everybody. But just know that the company has an enormous influence on you. And sometimes you have to have the courage to put your hand up, even when nobody else is. You have to have your courage to say no or to say yes when nobody else is. It takes a bit of doing. There's another set of psych experiments. I think I've referred to them before, the milligram experiments at Stanford, which were kind of unethical because they really put the grind on people. They wouldn't be allowed anymore. But Stanley Milgram, who ran the experiments, was the head of the psychology ethics committee for the United States at the time, so he could get away with it. Anyway, but they were, the shock experiment. Remember that one? Where a person pretended to be receiving a shock, and the subject was the one delivering the shock, and whether they would continue to shock the person on the say-so of an authority figure or not. So nobody was actually being shocked, but the person who was pretending to be shocked would scream and get louder and flail about, and so it was pretty disturbing. But the authority figure would just keep telling this person, well, if they don't answer the question right, give them another shock. And so the experiment was how many people would conform to the authority figure and continue to apparently torture this person. Lots of people did. The unethical thing about it was that these bright young Stanford students were so disturbed by it. Some of them dropped out, some of them had real problems afterward because they had to look at the darkness within themselves that was willing to conform to that. But a few of the students said, "The heck with you," and walked. It's a tricky business. So when you find that your own internal sense doesn't fit with what's happening around you, you need to check it with people you really trust. Check it with scripture. Check it with your guru. Check it with your guru boss. If you have that opportunity. Because what we're doing is in fact still countercultural and will be countercultural for quite some time. Another couple of you guys, as far as I can tell. So it takes courage. Last thing, it also takes persistence. Anybody here ever slog away on your meditation practice, your chanting practice, your spiritual practices? It feels like you're not getting very far. Anybody ever had that experience? Anybody had a dry period? All of us. Last story, and this is meant to encourage you. There's a science fiction story that was written back in the early 1950s by Ray Bradbury called The Sound of Thunder. That's what it was called, The Sound of Thunder. And it actually became the origin of the term the butterfly effect, which you may have heard of the butterfly effect. So let me tell you a story, just because it's kind of a fun story. Somebody invented a time machine. Okay, it's a science fiction time machine. And it was pretty expensive to run the machine, so they figured out how to monetize it. What they would do is they would, very wealthy people would pay a large sum of money, and they would get to go back into prehistoric times and to go hunting for dinosaurs. That was the thing. Got to go back and shoot a dinosaur. Now, the thing was, they were aware that they could goof things up if they went back and shot a dinosaur, so they would have scouts go ahead and find a dinosaur that was about to die anyway, a tree fall on them or, something. And what they did was that is science fiction, they had this hovering path, and any of these very wealthy hunters that were brought back, they had to stay on the hovering path so they wouldn't screw up the timelines, right? So this guy paid his big fee, and he's back there with the guide, and the guide is, you've got to stay on the path, do not get off the path, very important, do not, whatever. And so he's sitting there on the path waiting, and sure enough, the Tyrannosaurus Rex comes along. That's the dinosaur he's supposed to shoot. And he freaks out.
and runs away. What? You run away? Yeah. Yeah, they're big and fast. And so he jumped off the path and ran away. Well, while he's off the path, he hears the guy shoot the dinosaur. The dinosaur falls where he's supposed to fall. And then 1 minute later, the tree falls on the dinosaur, which would have killed him anyway, right? But the guy is furious with this wealthy man who broke the rules and got off the path and gets him back on there. He's just furious. Okay. So long and short of it, they go back and we return to the present time. And things are way different. There's a lot of English words that don't exist or spelled differently. A different person won the latest presidential election. It's all different. And the wealthy hunter looks on his shoe. There's a golden butterfly in the mud on his shoe. And it changed everything. The butterfly effect. Now this is plausible, right? That's why the story is so engaging. Is that if you change one little thing, it can ripple and ripple and ripple and have effects far into the future. Or another way the butterfly effect is talked about. You know, butterfly flaps its wings in Minnesota, and a year later, there's a typhoon in the South Pacific as a result. It's that little breeze, butterfly wings. Now, what's my point in all of this? A little practice can save you from dire fears and colossal sufferings. You have no idea of the butterfly effect of just those few kriyas that day. It may seem in the moment like, oh, slugging it through. Oh, yeah, okay. Keep at it. Keep at it. Keep at it. It'll save you from colossal sufferings. I have that on good authority. Really good. You don't know. It may not seem like a lot that day. But your practice is a gift that you're giving your future self, as well as a gift that you're giving the whole world, really. So keep it up. Go within. Connect with that divine that is in you. It's manifesting this particular point of it, which has its challenges. Anybody got challenges? Yeah, we all got challenges. Connect with that divine and let that butterfly spread its wings. I'm going to stop the recording.